Most people assume that central banking is part of capitalism. Governments, economists, and financial institutions present it as a necessary system for stability and economic growth. But what if I told you that modern central banking is not a free market institution at all? While central banks existed before Karl Marx, their structure today closely aligns with one of the key pillars of his Communist Manifesto. Karl Marx, the father of communist ideology, wrote about the need for centralized control over money. In his Communist Manifesto, written in 1848, he outlined 10 steps for transforming a society towards socialism. One of these steps, the fifth plank, called for the centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of a national bank with state capital and an exclusive monopoly. Marx argued that eliminating private competition in banking and placing financial control under government authority would help redistribute wealth and create economic equality. However, central banks predate Marx's writings, with the Bank of England, 1694, First Bank of the United States, 1791, and Banque de France, 1800, all existing before the Communist Manifesto. While these banks were established primarily to fund governments and regulate money supply, they were not explicitly designed as socialist institutions. The key difference today is that modern central banks, like the Federal Reserve in the US and the European Central Bank, have moved further toward government-coordinated control over monetary policy, making them functionally closer to what Marx envisioned than to a free market banking system. Today, these institutions control interest rates, regulate financial systems, and expand or contract the money supply based on political and economic decisions rather than pure market forces. Governments claim this is necessary for economic stability, but in practice, central banking has removed free market principles from the financial system and replaced them with centralized economic control. A truly capitalist system would allow interest rates to be determined by supply and demand, encouraging competition in banking and preventing monopolies from controlling financial markets. Instead, central banks manipulate borrowing costs, print money at will, and intervene in financial markets to serve political agendas. When financial crises occur, major banks and corporations are bailed out, while ordinary people bear the burden through inflation, job losses, and economic instability. This is not capitalism. Capitalism rewards innovation, competition, and voluntary exchange. Central banking does the opposite by distorting markets, encouraging risky financial behavior among large institutions, and forcing the average person to pay the price through higher inflation, rising debt, and reduced purchasing power. It is a form of economic central planning, a principle that aligns more with Marxist theory than with free market capitalism. One of the biggest hidden costs of central banking is inflation. Many people don't realize that inflation is not just a natural phenomenon, it is a direct result of central bank policies. Before the Federal Reserve was created in 1913, prices tended to decrease over time as technology improved and productivity increased. But once central banks took control of monetary policy, they ensured that inflation became a permanent feature of the economy, steadily reducing the value of money and making it harder for people to maintain their standard of living. Governments and large financial institutions benefit from inflation because they can pay off debts with devalued money. But for the average person, inflation is nothing more than a hidden tax, eroding their savings and forcing them to work harder just to afford the same goods and services. If central banking is not truly capitalist, what are the alternatives? One approach is sound money, where currency is backed by real assets like gold, silver, or decentralized digital alternatives such as Bitcoin. Another is a financial system where interest rates are set by the market rather than by central planners. Decentralized finance, DeFi, and private banking alternatives can provide more freedom by reducing reliance on state-controlled monetary policies. Perhaps most importantly, financial education is critical. Schools and mainstream institutions rarely teach how central banking works, because if people understood it fully, they might start questioning the entire system. Central banking was never truly about supporting free markets. It has always been about control. It creates an environment where the government and financial elites dictate monetary policy while the average person is forced to accept the consequences. The real question is whether people will continue to follow a system designed to keep them in debt, or seek out financial alternatives that offer true economic freedom.